One variable determines how much your child develops in any session. 20 minutes of practice at home, built around that variable, doesn't require coaching knowledge to run. I'll link to a free tool at the end that builds sessions around exactly this. Session length is almost irrelevant. Whether the drill looks technical, whether the session plan was written in advance, how many balls are in use. None of that determines development, really. One variable does. How many real decisions does your child make during the session? So a real decision has three components. First, there has to be real options. Not one correct answer, but at least two actual possibilities your child has to choose between. Second, there has to be real consequences for the choices being made. They have to make a real difference. Third, the information driving that decision has to come from the kind of environment that a match creates, one that changes depending on what your child does. Ideally, training makes that environment even harder to read than a match. When practice is harder than a game, the game feels easier. As an example, take a standard line drill. Your child arrives at the front of the queue, the ball is played to them, they control it, perhaps take a few touches to play it through a cone, make a pretend move to shake an imaginary defender, take a shot, and if they're lucky, there's a real goalkeeper trying to stop the shot, and then go back to join the back of the line again. How many decisions was that? The answer is 0, or at best 1. There's one option before the pass. At best 2. I'd argue one real option after. The information was fixed before the ball got to your child. The consequence is the same, regardless of what they do. The session might look productive from the outside. Kids are moving, there's a ball, a coach is present, overlooking it with a pleased smile. From the sideline, it looks like organized development. From the perspective of the player trying to learn to play, it's a test with one correct answer, repeated X number of times. Like a school system teaching kids how to take tests, not to prepare them for how real life works. Your child can be busy for 90 minutes and come no closer to reading a match. If you think I'm exaggerating, please take a look at your child's next practice or the practice next to their teams and tell me you don't see something close to this. From the clinic side of my work, I've learned that it costs more than just Saturdays as well, and I'll get back to that. You don't need a coaching qualification, a training program, or specialist equipment to make this better. You just need to understand 3 things. Adjust any one of them, and what comes out of the session changes. A good team session uses all 3. The best ones do. But with one child, one space, and no fixed plan, you can adjust all 3 specifically to your child. That's harder to manage with 17 players and 90 minutes on the clock. Now, this isn't about replacing your child's coach. Going too deep into coaching territory puts your child more at risk of having an adversarial relationship with you going forward, and that's not the intention behind it. It's more about putting your child in an environment that encourages real learning without the instructions, the pushing, and the performance expectations that a coach, with good reasons I might add, puts on your child. Space determines what information is available, too much of it, and there's nothing urgent enough to read. Too little, and there's no time to read it before the decision is already gone. The right amount of space is one where your child is consistently challenged, slightly uncomfortable, not overwhelmed. You can find it by watching, not by making calculations. Take goal spacing as one example. A child winning every exchange without much difficulty. Just move the goals closer. The opponent can press sooner, the decision window shrinks. A child losing every exchange without a moment's success. Open a space up. Both adjustments take 10 seconds and there are no instructions required. A game with one goal demands different decisions than a game with two. A game where both players can score demands different decisions than a one-way drill. You're adding information that changes depending on what your child does. A simple modification changes what the game asks for without anyone being told to do anything differently. Any goal from a first-time pass is worth 2. That might be it. Your child starts looking for the combination earlier because the game makes it worth looking for. Not because you've said play quicker, but because the task rewards it. Aim for just above what your child can reliably do. Consistent success at everything means the challenge is too low. Your child is practicing what they already know how to do. Consistent failure means it's too high. They're learning that effort leads to failure. Learning happens in the gap between the two. Increase the challenge by narrowing the space or by reducing how long the opponent rests between plays. Decrease it by opening the space. You don't have to instruct anything, you don't have to coach anything. Just change the environment somewhat and watch what happens. Let's say you have a small area with 2 goals and a friend of your child who's the defender. Your child has to perceive where the opponent is, choose between 2 real options, and act before the window closes. 3 things a too common practice drill on a Tuesday never ask for during the whole 90 minutes. Your job, if we can call it that, during this one is simply one thing. Help design the environment, then take a step back. The instinct to offer something mid-game, look up, use your left foot, track back, is hard to ignore, you know. Staying quiet will feel like not doing your job. It is, in fact, perhaps the most important part of the job. The game is teaching, and your voice interrupts that lesson. When your child loses the ball, the opponent attacks. And that's the feedback. It's immediate. You don't need to repeat it with words. And if there is no willing opponent, play on one goal. Your child might attack and you defend at roughly half effort. Enough pressure to be real, but adjustable enough to be manageable. You're playing, not watching, and you're not coaching. A child who has been coached verbally through every session learns to wait for the next instruction. In a game on Saturday, when the coach isn't there, they wait anyway, and the game doesn't wait. I have one more thing I want to say about this kind of session, because it might not be what you expect from a backyard practice video. I've spent 14 years in the physio clinic, and the non-contact injuries I've seen the most in young players, the knee that buckled, the rolled ankle without any contact from any opponents, and the hamstring that ruptures. These happen more often to players who have never been asked to read the environment before they move. In the match Saturday, the environment changes before they move, and they're not used to that, so they get caught. The same small-sided games that build the player who reads space on Saturday also builds the player who sees the challenge coming before their ankle does. You are not making a trade-off between development and safety. It's the same 10 to 20 minutes that benefits both. Try this kind of practice at home 1 or 2 times a week for a couple of months. Watch what changes on game day. And again, you're not replacing the coach. You're simply helping your child play at home. You now know what a real decision looks like. Go build one this week. There's a free tool in the description. It generates sessions built around this exact framework. Try it out. If you want me to look at your specific child's situation, their practice, their load, what's actually happening on Saturdays, you can apply below. We work one-to-one through 90 days, and if you're not a fit, I'll let you know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.